So there had been this problem in my community recently. There was a video of an ER tech working at a local hospital that I will leave out, and she filmed herself on TikTok making a mockery of a patient in pain. You can hear a woman screaming in pain in the background, and the ER tech making the TikTok was just making faces like, "You see what I have to deal with." And luckily, the video has been removed, but a lot of people all over the community and the nation, and I think even some response videos in other countries came out because they said, "How the hell is this happening? How was it allowed? What disciplinary action has been taken?" And the local hospital did make a statement saying they apologize for the video and it's under investigation. They claim she's not working while it's under investigation, but some people on Google reviews say she's still there. So who knows? And I wanted to weigh in just because I've had to go to this hospital so many times. I've had to go there more than my parents have, more than anybody I know has. And I have a lot of medical PTSD that's in part because I've gone there and felt not safe and not respected and not heard and not treated with respect. And I will preface what I'm saying with just the fact that I don't just selectively remember bad things, because when you're in pain and you're scared and you're sick, of course you're going to remember like the one instance where someone was rude instead of all the times you were helped by the doctors and nurses and staff. So I will preface what I'm saying with the fact that I had several, nurses over the years and EMTs who helped, transport me there, who were very comforting and very respectful. And I remember their faces. I remember what it meant to me at the time. So I'm not going to just blanket coat anything, but I know that this is like this whole trend where it's like, because I am your nurse, because I'm your doctor, because I'm helping you, and I'm burned out, I have a right to take to my social media and be like, "Oh my God, another one of these types of patients." But when people film in the ER, especially if you work there, and you're hearing someone screaming in the background, sure, it might not be socially acceptable behavior, but it's this whole catch-22. Like, if you're not screaming, oh, you're not in that much pain. And if you are screaming, you're being unruly. Or maybe you are a psych patient, which technically they're supposed to be equipped to treat as well, and clearly aren't, because I've been in the ER overhearing how nurses talk about people who are having a psychiatric crisis. And it's got me afraid enough to try to, next time I'm having an emergency, get a ride about an hour away to the nearest other major hospital, even though that's a dangerous gamble with my health and safety to make that commute while seriously ill and hypothetically wanting to go to the nearest hospital. And since the pandemic, it's definitely true that nurses and pretty much anyone working in healthcare has been completely burned out, and their position has been abused by some people who don't have enough empathy and shouldn't be in the field anymore. And also people who have been trying their best and are working under supervisors that are not allowing them to take the sick leave they need, the mental health leave that they need, and the days off that they need. They're constantly being asked to come in and work on their days off and being forced to work sudden overtime, sudden double shift they didn't expect. So I don't lack empathy for the providers who've gotten pissed. In fact, one of the reasons I left my caregiving job is I felt like I'm getting so burned out that I lack the necessary empathy to do that job. So I'm all on board with, if you feel that way, if you feel ready to pick up your phone and complain about a patient screaming in the background, you definitely should leave the profession. But you definitely shouldn't stay with that attitude. So I'm angry. There's a variety of reasons I'm angry at this particular hospital. They look like a huge, expansive facility, but they have extremely limited inpatient beds. We're serving a community of over 200,000 people, I believe, and they have, I think, 54 beds at this point. 54 beds. So even before the pandemic, if you go to that hospital, the wait time could be up to 8 hours or more. Post pandemic, I've waited 12 hours or more, even when I've been brought by ambulance, just for my initial assessment from a nurse or doctor. And one of the news stories pre-pandemic, where they were asking hospital administrators why the wait time is so crazy, the hospital administrators were essentially blaming the expansion of Medicaid for an influx of patients that they're not equipped to meet the needs of, and basically pointing the finger, saying you should be more mad at the Medicaid recipients than us for not being equipped to deal with people who now have insurance. My first experience going to that hospital, I was 12 years old, and I had what I didn't know at the time was an IBS attack. My parents took me to that hospital in the middle of the night, and even with no context for being in an ER before that I recall, I thought it was a really weird experience because I was in such agony that I was like doubled over, unable to sit in a chair. But we were waiting for hours and hours, and I was forced to just get placed back in this chair. And when we finally get called anywhere, it's to a business administrative office where I'm still sitting, like shaking with a little vomit bag, and my parents are trying to go over details of the insurance policy because I'm not even going to get seen by a triage nurse until they verify an insurance policy. So I remember it was like probably, 3 or 4 a.m. And I'm just like shaking and heaving and thinking, this is kind of weird that we've gone to an ER, and after many hours of just waiting in a lobby, now we're in a business administrative office instead of me being actually seen by a doctor. And I think like around dawn, finally got seen by a doctor, and my parents were ushered out of the room because I had to be interviewed alone. He asked if there was any chance I could be pregnant. I said no. I hadn't even... Yeah, no chance of that. And from what I recall, they just kept me for a few hours and did essentially nothing, and then sent me home. And pretty much every hospital experience there has been similar to that, where after they do some sort of treating you, sort of seeing you, sort of consulting thing, they send you home. And technically they're equipped to do a lot more than that, but you get less and less every single time you go. It's like they used to do specialist referrals if it was out of their scope of what they could accomplish in the emergency department, or they would refer you to something to do for a follow-up thing, and they don't do that anymore. So just a lot of things that never seemed right to me even before COVID. But now that they have the excuse of COVID and the excuse of the influx of Medicaid patients, now they have a multitude of excuses for why to be rude to people and why to act like they're just so overwhelmed that they have a right to treat you a certain way. And like I said, I'm kind of the opinion that if you have staff working for you that have an attitude that sadistic, they shouldn't be in the profession anymore. They shouldn't be at the hospital anymore. And if the hospital itself is not equipped to meet the needs of this community, then people need to start getting referred elsewhere if they need emergency care. Like, I would rather someone say, we're not equipped to meet your needs, why don't you go to Silverton, than make you wait for nothing. And anyway, obviously regarding the blatant lack of respect that this woman had when she made the TikTok video, I do hope that there is disciplinary action. I do hope she's fired, because it's made ripples all over the world. It's that bad. And it's not like an isolated thing. It's like this whole nationwide trend now that TikTok's exploded, where there's nurses picking up their phone looking sick and tired of what they do. And I would rather have no one by my bedside than have someone like that by my bedside. And I mean that with all my heart. I'd rather put it in God's hands and die at home.